everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rising Muse. This is a very special episode. It's our Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah.
So, as the holidays approach, we are all excited with the food and the decorations and everything that's coming, and maybe a little stress. Are you starting to feel the pressure of the holidays? Trying to create the picture perfect moments, but not thinking about the bank? Are you nodding your head? This episode is for you. As we express our gratitude for what we already have, let's start planning how we're going to do these holidays right, keeping the right meaning of Christmas, keeping our finances in check. We're going to talk about staying within our means, the true spirit of the holidays, and practical ways to avoid overspending. Plus, we have a very special guest that's going to help us through that conversation. And at the end, there's a gift for everybody. So stay tuned. I'm Natty.
I'm Veda.
And we are here to thrive.
We are thrilled to welcome Ralph Estep Jr., a renowned financial consultant from Saggio Accounting Plus and author of Mastering Your Finances, a comprehensive guide to creating a personal financial plan. Ralph has helped countless families and individuals navigate their financial lives, especially during the holiday season when it can be so easy to overspend. We know that. Today, Ralph is here to talk about how we can plan for the holidays financially, celebrate meaningfully, and avoid falling into the holiday debt trap. Ralph, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we are so grateful because this is something that we need to talk about.
Yes, we do.
So, Ralph, with the holidays, we think a time of giving, but so many people get the wrong impression and go overboard with their spending. What advice would you give someone who wants to enjoy the season but not max out their credit cards?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is a time of giving. But I think as with anything else, you have to approach it with some financial wisdom. And so I'm going to lay down a couple things I think are really important. And you're going to hear me mention the word budget a few times. And I'm going to start off with the first thing that you absolutely got to do is create a comprehensive budget. Now, a lot of people don't like the word budget because it sounds restrictive. So I'm going to throw a different word out there. And we're going to call it an intentional spending plan. So we're going to develop an intentional spending plan for the holidays. And the thing is, you got to make sure you include all of your anticipated expenses. You got to plan for gifts. You got to plan for decorations, for food, accommodations, and even travel costs, because a lot of people forget about those things.
Right,
So
true.
first thing, comprehensive budget. Second thing, you need to implement my 24-hour rule, which basically says this: if you're going to buy something, wait 24 hours. Check your budget or check your intentional spending plan, and does it fit with your goals? So don't make that impulsive decision. Give it that 24-hour cooling off period. And then the last thing I'm going to say, big picture thing, is look for cost saving strategies. This is a time to do comparison shopping. Maybe you consider homemade gifts. I remember when I was young, when I was getting started, didn't have a big bank account. Well, Christmas time, I offered to do services for people. Like I remember one year, I offered to detail their cars for them because it was a personalized gift. It didn't cost me anything except for some sweat labor. So that's one of the things I recommend. Another thing I think is good for families to do is consider gift exchanges. So you're not getting into this, I call it the Ponzi scheme at Christmas, where I buy you a $50 gift, you buy me a $50 gift, and we each give somebody else a $50 gift. Well, at the end of the day, we've given a lot of gifts and we haven't gotten anything because we took 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So those are really my top 3 things I think to prevent you from going overboard. Like I said, intentional spending plan, 24-hour rule, and really look at some cost saving strategies.
I'll say something. That 24-hour rule, I would apply it all year round because I think there's so many times where you see something and you're like, and then once you get home, you're like, or once you press order online, especially online, it's like, should I have done that? So I think that's a rule that we should hear for the whole year.
That's a gift that keeps giving. You're absolutely right. And that can be done all year long. So that's your Christmas gift to yourself all year long.
I agree. The other thing I like, especially if you have a sizable family, the whole kind of like Secret Santa type thing, because that's what he was saying in being creative, because everybody gets a gift, and I don't have to buy a gift, I just have to buy one. So that's a real good idea.
Yeah, and like when you have a big family, buy a gift no more than $25.
Yeah,
or
put a cap.
$20, like like that, and then everybody can stay in
Budget.
that budget, and nobody is out giving somebody else.
Right.
It's like, okay, we're gonna set a budget, $25 each person, except for a husband and wife, of course. So I'm gonna need at least 500.
Oh, okay. Well, that's.
But what you're really talking about there is the true spirit of Christmas. And it's not how much money you spend.
Sure.
And we get so hung up on that because we look at social media and it takes us down this road of, but it's all about the love and thoughtfulness behind your actions. And if you're intentional about it and you say, here's the way we're going to do it, well, then it comes through. It's not about how much you spend.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I learned that as a child. My mom and my grandparents taught me that as I was growing up. So it's not about how much you
Not at
spend.
all.
It's about the heart of the gift, and that can save a lot of money. A whole lot. Okay, Ralph, when you talk to families about budgeting for the holidays, what are some of the common mistakes you see them make? You see them make, and how can we avoid it?
Well, I think the big thing is we go along with that intentional spending plan. If we have a budget, if we have a spending plan, if we're not tracking where the money's going, that is probably one of the biggest things because it's so
$1,500. I used to work for the Department of Education. Mine was around $500. And when I moved to corporate, private sector, there it's supposed to be at least 2% of your salary or $200, whatever's first. So most companies just gave you the 200, but you could be working at McDonald's and you will get either the 2% or the $200. So imagine when I moved to the States, the shock, the cultural shock, because is you budget with that money. If I get extra $1,500,
movie. I think it's National Lampoon's Christmas
I was going to
Vacation.
mention that.
Yeah, and they bank on that. People bank on that, and
Yes.
so if you're going to bank on that, you better bank on the expenses that go alongside of that as well.
Yeah, I was thinking. I just had that image of Chevy Chase trying to put all those lights out. I was just thinking
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. And I could see Chevy Chase. I could be just as mad as he was. Instead of getting a bonus, I got what was it? Jelly of the Month Club. OMG.
He was not happy. And he was trying to cut cost, and he caught a tree that came with a raccoon inside.
Yeah, he did. Came with a squirrel.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay. So, how do you? I know with the gifts sometimes, and I can tell you, although I was quite creative last year, but with kids, you know, sometimes they want stuff that may blow up your budget. Now, I was super creative last year because last year my Christmas was rough, and my child wanted oh my god, the car,
Hot Wheels.
yeah, the like what's the word I'm thinking, what the racetrack, thank you.
Racetrack.
And what I did was I bought some little Hot Wheels, and I had a plank of wood, and I bought tape that looked like the streets.
She did.
I sure did.
She
It cost me
did.
$3. I am very proud of it.
Yeah.
And I made my own, put it all around it. He played with it, and he was as happy as he could be.
Yes.
He had his racetrack, and it's not the racetrack that any other kid had.
Yeah.
It cost me $3.
You had to spend that Hot Wheels money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Sometimes you
good.
gotta do, you had to be creative. But sometimes parents feel that pressure. How do you have that conversation with children about, yeah, I don't think this year you're gonna get the bike?
I mean, that's a delicate balance to strike. And so preparing for today, I thought about that, and I came up with some ideas, right? So first thing I think you need to do is involve children in the budgeting process. Now, you can't do that with infants, obviously, but based on their age, involve them in that. Let older children participate in that discussion. Teach them about financial planning. Teach them about how you save for these months to plan for these end of the year months, and help them to better understand why they can't have everything. This is the truth in life. We do a terrible job in this country of teaching our children financial responsibility because we give and we give and we give and we give. And the sooner you can start to develop that, and this is a great time to do it, you teach them about that financial responsibility. The second thing I'm going to tell you to do is encourage giving, because in the end, that's really what we're talking about. Have children, your own children, donate things and toys to people who are less fortunate. It gets them in the true spirit of Christmas. Teach them about generosity and teach them about how to appreciate the things they have. One of the things I talk about in my show all the time is teach your children about writing I can't think of it. A gratitude journal every day. Write something you're grateful for. Here's another thing you can implement if you're a parent. Implement what I call the want, need, wear, read gift strategy. And what that means is limit the gift items.
Slowly.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's going to be called the want, need, wear, or read gift strategy. I'm going to break it down for you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I'm saying here is that the gifts have to fall into one of four items: something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read. Because then what you're doing is you're setting up those expectations from the front end, and it will help to be a balance. So, in other words, let's just say you're going to buy 4 gifts for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to buy something they want. Oh, I really got to have this toy, mom or dad. I got to have this. Maybe it's something they need. Maybe they need a calculator for school or something like that. Something they wear. I mean, maybe they need a new winter coat. They'll learn to appreciate that. And then something to read, because we want to foster that education.
Yes.
Get too many online things. Buy them a book. Teach them something valuable. The next thing I'm going to do is tell you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, I said you're singing my song.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the next thing I'm going to tell you is focus on experiences, because it's so easy to get bogged down in the gift giving and gift receiving. Maybe this is a time where you plan special family outings instead of material gifts. Maybe it's an every year thing. We go to see Christmas lights, or we go to a particular service at church. Maybe you have a family game night, because that's what it's really all about. Maybe you do a Christmas movie marathon, because then you're teaching them that it's not about the gifts, it's about the experience. It's about spending time as a family. Because here's the deal. Like, my kids are 23 and 27 now. So they're not around the Christmas tree on Christmas morning. I would love to have those same experiences from when I was a kid. But when my kids were kids, I mean, they would tear through that pile of gifts like it was going out of style. Like there was gold bars in those gifts, and 5 minutes after it started, it was over. Another thing I'm going to tell you is teach them delayed gratification, because this is just part of being an adult. Teach them to be an adult. If it's a big ticket item your children wants, explain to them that they've got to save up for that. It's not just something I can drop on Christmas Day. And that really teaches a valuable lesson. That's that valuable lesson about how to make gifts more meaningful when they have to save for them. And like I said, I mentioned this a moment ago, practice gratitude. Encourage your kids to write thank you cards. It used to drive me crazy when I have 2 boys, people would come over and visit them for birthdays or Christmas. And I'd say to them, make sure you remember who gave you what, because tomorrow we're writing thank you cards. And as they got older, the grandparents might send a check or send some cash or anything like that. And I'd say to them, hey, did you send your grandmother? Oh, no, I forgot about that. I'll get to that. And I said, well, I'm going to call your grandmother tomorrow and tell her to stop sending anything to you until you send that thank you card. Because it really helps the child focus on appreciation.
Yes.
And it's not so much that accumulation, because this is the thing. As a Christian, right? We all know that what we're given is not ours.
Yeah.
We're here to steward it. We shepherd it, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to teach our kids that we've got to appreciate what we have. We can't look at it like, how much do we have on our bank account? How many toys do we have under the tree? Because the whole goal is to create a joyful memory, so that when they're 70 years old and they're looking back, oh, I remember Christmas Day at mom and dad's, we used to have game time and we trimmed the tree and
of we celebrated as a family in between those 4 houses with the neighbors. And we would get together and say, okay, this day we're going to decorate the houses. So we would help this neighbor and they will help us. And usually uh, we would decide if it was going to be Christmas or New Year's. We were going to do with our personal families or together. And then we would do whichever one on the street and cook with each other. We didn't do gifts. Now that I think about it, we just made meals with each other and sang. My godmother was the lady across the street, and she made a tambourine out of a 5 pile bucket of paint. The what? Yeah, she would hit it with the thing and make music out of it, and we would be dancing and screaming and playing. It was so much fun, and that was everybody brought a plate, a dish or whatever, and we were all together and there was no gifts or nothing. It was just us having time
Family
together.
time.
Family time.
Think
Yeah,
about
we were like family.
and think about the impact that made on you, though.
Yeah.
Because what you're telling me is all about the experience. You're telling me about the
Yes.
people. You're telling me about the culture. You're telling me about the food. You're talking about the smells, the taste, the feeling. That's what it's really all about.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. And we can incorporate all these things. I'm already thinking about Christmas. I got 5 grandsons. They may each get a card with $25 in it. Cards. Remember last year when I was looking for gifts and
Yeah.
stuff for them? I just don't want to go through that stress anymore. I'm wondering if they'll like it. Everybody like money.
That's why I say give them something they want, give them something they need, give them something they can wear, or give them something they can read.
Right.
Yeah. The read one, I'm gonna be the one.
I'm buying them all.
I'm
books.
buying books
I'm
this
buying
year.
all
I
5 of my
hadn't thought about
grandson
it
books. They're going to look at them and go,
I don't
"Where we
care."
at?"
because they know I'm crazy. So everybody's getting books
That
this year.
sounds good.
I'm on that one.
What's
That's
funny you
fine.
said that because last year my aunt, my mother's sister, my mother passed away last year with a brain tumor.
So
And Christmas was kind of hard. And what she did for her, all her kids, is she bought them all. And it's going to be a selfish pug, but she bought them all my book, Mastering Your Finances, because she said, look, here's a gift that will pay dividends for the rest of your life. If you get your finances in order, and I don't know how happy they were about getting it. She gave them other things too. But it was funny because after Christmas, she goes, Ralph, she said, all of them sat there Christmas Day reading your book. Because they recognize that they need those skills because those are the skills that are going to pay off the rest of their lives. And why not incorporate that into Christmas? Teach some financial lessons. I think that's the big picture here.
Yeah. Definitely. This is great. We never really, my family never really worried about how much a gift would cost. I just wanted to make sure everybody got a gift. And I'm so glad we're just simple families. I could have given her some dish towels or something and she would have cherished them for the rest of the year. So we're just simple people. And I love that. Have to impress anybody. But for those who overdo, can you talk about the people who overdo?
Are you talking about the people that feel that pressure, like that peer pressure they got to do and they got to do?
Yes.
And that's a great question because in this social media age, we all live by that, right? We've all got these magic phones that are supposed to make us all feel great about ourselves. And what do they end up doing? Making us feel worse about ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
They set unrealistic expectations and they put unnecessary pressure on it. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, got to remember this. Social media is a highlight reel. It's like watching a sports game. Guess what social media is? It's all the touchdowns. It's all the home runs. It's all those things. And they're carefully curated. And it just doesn't reflect real life. It doesn't show the debt that comes along with all that spending. So you got to just think about it in terms of that. It is definitely a highlight reel. The second thing you got to do is you got to define your own version of a perfect Christmas.
Yes.
You can't go by what social media, that what societal pressure says. You got to have a family discussion about this.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what is really, truly important. And ask the question, is it spending time together?
Mm-hmm.
Is it serving others? Is it celebrating your faith? And I hope it is if you're a Christian family.
Yes.
And let your priorities guide those decisions. It's not what you see online. And I'm going to come back to it again. Practice gratitude. Remind yourself and your family that the blessings you have. Think about all the things. I think there's an old saying, count your blessings one by one. But think about that during the holidays, and encourage that gratitude journal. And like we've talked about a couple times now, focus on creating memories, not those picture perfect moments. I think it's crazy. I see these people with their iPhones or their Android phones out, and you open up your Facebook Christmas Day, and it's all the same pictures. Everybody's got those Christmas morning pajamas on. Everybody's got the this and the that. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you're like robots.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have no sense of what it's this robotic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the key to it. Those snapshots and sound bites, those pictures. But the truth of the matter is, as well as I do,
Mm-hmm.
the best Christmas memories come from those imperfect moments, those unplanned things. Like I'll give you a great example. My aunt was one of these people that always had Christmas Eve dinner at her place. And Christmas Eve, her kitchen sink broke.
Oh.
And she started to panic because she had a whole house full of people. And she says to my mother, she says, what am I going to do with the dishes? Well, guess what we did that Christmas? We washed the dishes in the tub. But that's a memory I will remember the rest of my life. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't social media. It was like, guess what you got to do?
Mm-hmm.
We got to wash the dishes. There's it's one of them big old iron tubs with the claw, the things at the bottom. And it was full of sudsy dishes. And the last thing I'm going to say on that is be transparent. Mm-hmm. Because you got to be open about it, inspire other people, inspire your other family members to do the same. You can't have that situation where, let's say you're a big family, everybody comes together and everybody feels like they got to one-up each other.
Yeah.
So this is a conversation that you want to have before Christmas, relieve that social pressure. That's why I talked about doing that gift exchange. Maybe you do a potluck dinner where nobody feels like they're the only ones that have been put upon. Because I'm going to quote something from the Bible, and this is from Matthew 6:21. So pardon me while I read this.
No problem.
But it says this. It says, remember this, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And that's where you got to start focusing on storing up treasures in heaven. And those treasures are love, their kindness, their generosity. And stop trying to create that picture perfect, that Rockwell. This is what Christmas looks like in the snow's falling. I have never seen snow on Christmas where I live. I'm in Delaware, the East Coast, maybe one time in my life, and I'm 52 years into this.
In Georgia, I've seen, we get an hour of snow every 2 years.
Yeah,
maybe an hour.
Yeah.
And by the time you actually look outside, it's gone.
And it's never on
Christmas.
Christmas.
It's never on Christmas. That's what I was going to say. And Puerto Rico, if it snows, the world hasn't.
Yeah.
But it's all about creating that expectation. And you got to inspire others in your family to practice that as well, because you're going to get really upset if everybody's on a different planet than you are. And if everybody's playing or singing from a different, it's kind of like going to church on Sunday and the person next to you's got the wrong hymn and they're singing one thing, you're singing another. Boy, it doesn't sound too good. But if you plan on that ahead of time, then you relieve that pressure, because I don't think people realize how much pressure the holidays bring on people. There's people who have lost loved ones. There's people who are figuring out, like, how am I going to put food on the table? Now you're asking me to buy gifts. There's people that have these stresses. Maybe they're looking for a new job, or maybe they're getting ready to get laid off from their job. Maybe they have health concerns, and all this food being around them is just making them crazy. And I think it comes to a fever pitch. Maybe they're around family members they don't see the rest of the year because they can't stand them because they're dirty, rotten scoundrels. But, it's Christmas. You got to be nice to everybody. And that's why I say it's all about setting up yourself for success. Make sure you've got that intentional spending plan, and then just have a conversation, a calm conversation, and talk about what's everybody expect this holiday.
That's good. Yeah, that is so good. Okay. We want to keep Christ in Christmas.
Absolutely.
Do you?
I do.
I do. We want to keep Christ in Christmas. So, Ralph, tell us how we can incorporate the true meaning of Christmas without focusing on the material stuff.
I'm sorry.
The true meaning of Christmas, the Christ, instead of focusing on that, the monetary and the trivial stuff.
So I'm going to start by saying this. I heard an old Baptist minister. This is an old fellow one time. And he said, Christianity looks like this. He says, it's Christmas morning. And he says, picture this when you were a kid. You got the Christmas tree downstairs. All the gifts are under the tree. And you're sitting there with anxiety. You can't wait to get up. You wait for them parents to get up. And he said, think about this. Christianity is just like that. You run down in front of the tree, and the biggest gift of Christmas is, do you open the gift or not? Because the true meaning of Christmas is Christ is giving you this gift. Do you open it or not? So when we start out with that mindset, and then we say, okay, here's what you can do. You asked me a very point blank question. And I think the key to it all is being generous. And it's not just in giving stuff, it's reflecting that gift that you've been given by God. Give your time. Volunteer at local charities, do soup kitchen stuff, help somebody else out. Spend time with local neighbors. Maybe you've got some shut-ins or some elderly people who don't get to see many people. That's a huge thing that you can do about keeping Christ in Christmas. Maybe you offer to babysit for some young people who are stressed out and they don't know how they're going to get through the holiday season. That's a reflection of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a cool thing you can do. Share your talents. We all have these gifts that God has given us. Use those skills to bless others. That's a way you can keep Christ in Christmas. If you're a good cook, make meals for somebody. You don't want me to make the meals. Oh boy, you're not going to eat them. My wife can do it. That'd be great.
The ice and the cups.
Yeah, but maybe you make meals for a family in need. If you're musical, again, I used to be musical, not musical now. Maybe you create a caroling group that goes out through the neighborhood. You don't see that stuff anymore. Like I went as a kid, that was the coolest thing. People go house to house caroling. Another cool thing to do during the holidays to keep Christ in Christmas is practice random acts of kindness. We need more of that in this world anyway. Pay for that coffee for the person behind you in line. Leave encouraging notes for coworkers. Maybe if it does snow, I know you're in Georgia, but if it does snow, shovel the snow for your neighbors or cut the grass one time for them. And like we've talked about many times, give those experiences instead of those material gifts. Give the gift of shared experiences. Maybe it's a cooking class. Maybe you're a great cook. You do some cooking, or maybe you have a concert for your family. Maybe you play the violin or the guitar or something like that. Maybe you're a good old banjo player, whatever. Give that concert for somebody. Take a day trip. That's all the way to reflect it. And like we talked about, we talked about how difficult Christmas can be.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that you can definitely reflect Christ in Christmas is give them emotional support. People might need that hug. You can see it on their faces because that time of year can be difficult for people.
Mm-hmm.
And people, you can usually see it on their face, but go up and give them a hug. Tell them it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Give them hope. Be intentional about sharing time with your friends and family. Another thing you can do is create those homemade gifts. Again, it's not about what you give it. You don't have to go to the store to buy it.
Make a batch of cookies and make bags of cookies. Or was it the best gift that we gave your auntie was that reindeer that Mason made. We made a craft with the 2-year-old, and oh my God, that for her that is better than a Picasso.
And think about this. The greatest gift that we've ever received was the gift of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
I mean, think about that for a second. That is the definition of what true of Christmas is the gift of Christ. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
So, and another thing I'm going to tell you, my wife and I do, and this is a way you can reflect Christ as well, because give anonymously. In many churches we've gone to, we'll say to the pastor, we'll say, listen, I want you to tell me 5 people in the congregation who need help. I don't even want to know who they are. I'm going to give you an envelope of money. I want you to bless them at Christmas. I don't want them to know who did it. Because that's the gift of Christ as well. It's not about getting that accolade, nice pat on the back. We get that all the time, right? We got to stop looking for those things. Christ didn't come to this world so he could get accolades from his Father. That's for doggone sure, right? He came here to save dirty, rotten scoundrels like you and me. We're all sinners, right? So if you want to keep Christ in Christmas, think about those things. And remember that not everybody has that same experience that you have. People have, there's trauma out there. And so be that emotional support person for that person, but do the things that create that experience rather than just worrying about those gifts. Because the thing is, secular world, it's all about the gifts. You get those TV commercials, you go to Target, you go to Walmart, pick all the stores, all the fancy stuff and the Christmas stuff's out. Guess what? Has nothing to do with Christmas.
Right.
It just doesn't.
I want to, okay, couple of things. My brain went 2 ways. One was, one of the ways that we can be generous and totally reflect the spirit of Christmas is if you know of someone that can go home for whatever reason. It could be, finances, or they have to work or whatever, and you're having a meal at home, invite them to your house. For some years, if I knew someone that was new in town and that year they couldn't go back home, I would always bring them and say, "Hey, come eat with us." That's a way to be,
And
Christ.
that's a great thing to do. My son's in the Coast Guard, and he was stationed in Kings Bay, Georgia, till just recently. Now he's in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, we would go down to his house on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I the first time he said it, he says, "Dad, I'm going to be inviting a lot of guys from work to come for Thanksgiving." And I'm thinking, I don't know these people. And he says, "No, you don't understand it, Dad." He said, "These people can't get home."
Yes.
And it's funny because we did it the first year. Then the second year, I said to him, "How many fresh turkeys do I need to bring?" He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, how many people are you going to invite?"
Right.
And I started to look forward to it, because you're right. That's the whole point of the holiday, is to share that experience with somebody else. And there are so many people that sit at home crying during the holidays by themselves because no one reached out to just offer them a human contact. Hey, come over, have some dessert. Come over. We're just going to sit here and watch football, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that. But reach out to people that don't have anybody, because those are gifts that they'll never forget.
And I learned it from my mom and my brother's way older than me, but she used to tell the stories that when my brother went off to college, there were kids that for whatever reason couldn't go home. Either they didn't have good families or so. And my brother would call and say, "Mommy, I'm bringing 2, 3." She was like, "Okay." Sofas, floor, whatever. And they would come for either Christmas or Thanksgiving to our house. And she would feed us all and do that. So I got that from my mom. And I think our future generations need to do that, because life is not online. Life is what we do with each other. Now, as a financial consultant, can you tell me how truly do people actually save on Black Friday?
You know what? No. Again, that's a game. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yes, let's talk about that.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could argue that there are some sales that, you might get a benefit of a discount or something like that. But yes, marginally, maybe. But
Don't
I
they
think
usually just get the price up and then they tell you it's a discount and you end up actually paying more?
well, I don't know if they're paying more, but I think that there's a pressure to buy because, I got to buy. It's Black Friday. I got to get there to the store early.
Right.
Is it part of your intentional spending plan? Did you need that 75-inch TV?
Right.
Oh, but it's $200 off. But did you need it? Did you, or did you want it? Is it something you can wear? Is it something you can read? I'm not being funny, but most of those things. Now, if you use that time, like one of the things that we do, my wife and I like to eat out. So one of the things that we'll do on Black Friday is we'll buy those gift cards, because a lot of times you can buy the gift card, you buy 5, you get 1 free. Now that's a good deal. But again, it all comes down to making a financial decision. Do you need that thing first? If you need that thing and it's cheaper on Black Friday, fantastic. But it was Black Friday sale, or is it the 2 days after Thanksgiving sale? Is it let's just be honest. It's a game, right? It is what it is. If you're going to buy it, you're going to buy it. Do you save 10%? Maybe. The problem is the thing I worry about with Black Friday bigger than anything else is they put out those credit card offers at the same time. Sign up for this credit card and, no interest payments for 3 months and same as cash. And that just becomes a debt trap for people. Oh, but I couldn't pass it up, Ralph. It was 20% off this thing. I had to have it. And that's the thing. So I don't know. I don't know if I had a good answer for that one. I don't know if that was a good answer for you or not, but
Yeah.
I think it's an incentive for people to spend for the sake of spending. Oh, I got to get out there and shop on Black Friday. I try to avoid them all on Black Friday. I have no interest in going anywhere near that mess.
Yeah. No,
I avoided Black Friday too. It's like,
I've been to Black Friday.
No.
I've been to Black Friday twice, and I usually be there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because I always said the crazies are back home, so I can go in now and actually browse. Because Black Friday, and anybody can disagree with me, is the least Christian-like behavior ever. People are pushing each other and being mean to each other over an item.
Yes.
So
you think they call it black for a reason, right? It's dark, right?
And I have never seen lines and lines of people waiting to go into church. So
that's what we need to do. We need to have a Black Friday church service.
That would
Hurry
be
and come in and get your touch of Christ before it's too late.
Yeah,
we're offering 20% off salvation, Black Friday only. But the best part of that is it's free anyway. So I'm not sure what you're going to save, but it's free anyway as long as you open up that gift.
If you're not saved already, you're going to save your soul.
That's true.
Money because you didn't go shopping.
All right, so I think we've all got a plan now. We're going to open up our churches on Black Friday for Salvation Friday.
There you go. I like that
Sounds
idea.
good to us. It really sounds good to us. You have because I forgot to give somebody a gift. And I couldn't set myself up for that. Now it's a good idea about the dinner.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law lost her husband about 4 years ago. Since he's been gone, they haven't celebrated Thanksgiving. I just talked to her the other day. And she said, what are y'all doing for Thanksgiving? I said, we always, since Mom's been gone for 8 years, we just have Thanksgiving here in Georgia. She said, well, this year I want to cook. Okay. Y'all want to come over? Yes. Mm-hmm. Of course we'll come over. I told her I'll do the turkey and the dressing. You can do the sides. So everybody brings something. Mm-hmm. And that's going to lighten up her home.
Right.
4 years, she has not wanted to do anything on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. But it's like this year that black cloud is gone. Mm-hmm. And now she just want to focus on her granddaughter and her daughter and the family. I think that's great.
And, and think about this too. Sometimes people, if they're in mourning or they're crushed by whatever situation, they might not want to come to your house. Mm-hmm. Make them a plate.
Yes.
Deliver a plate.
Take it to them.
Take it to their house. If you know single moms that may not be able to cook a whole meal for the kid, you know what? Here's plates for you and the kids. So there's so many things that it can be done to be able to be the hands and the feet of Christ during the holidays.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things I encourage people to do is pray about it. Mm-hmm. We haven't even mentioned that. Sit down before God and say, God, what would you have me to do? How can I fix some of these broken? Because think about broken families during the holidays. What can I do to fix it? What can I do to extend those olive branches? What are some meaningful traditions that I can start to create now? Yeah. What are some ways that we can, practice gratitude? Maybe instead of giving gifts, you give gifts of gratitude to each other. Mm-hmm. Think about that. But starts with prayer and say to God, look, open the doors for me. Show me what your will be for my. It's one of the things I pray every day. Mm-hmm. I say, God, show me your will for my life. And he's taking me down paths. I'm like, dude, I wasn't sure that's where you wanted me to go. But when I shut up and I listened, he showed me the way. And maybe that's what you're talking about there is, maybe it isn't traditional. Maybe it doesn't look normal. Maybe you're making plates on Chinex and you're delivering them to the shut-ins in the neighborhood, right? But it doesn't have to be that cookie cutter, everybody does it this way approach. Everybody's different. Christ, he was born and was laid in a manger. Mm-hmm. Think about that. I raised Black Angus cows here on the farm.
Right.
You know what I'm thinking about? So I get that. I get what it's like to lay in hay, right? Not that I do that, but the cows do, right?
Yeah.
But the Savior of the world laid in hay because there was no place to lay his head.
Yes.
So we got to think outside the box a little bit and pray about it. Think about, ask for some of that heavenly wisdom to help you get through those holidays. And it's tough when people, like I said, my mother died March of last year from a brain tumor. She was only around for 30 days once they diagnosed it. And I'm going to tell you, Christmas was quiet. It was dark. But I prayed in the morning and I said, God, what would you have me to do today? And he said, reflect my love to others. And he gave me ideas of how I could do that, And it all came down to giving gifts and, not just giving gifts, giving my time, giving my talents, giving the things that God has entrusted with me to do better with. And so I hope that helps the listeners here because that's what it comes down to, create your own traditions. They don't have to be what the standard is, the nonsense on TikTok and all that other garbage. That stuff is garbage. It's the highlight reels.
Yeah. The talking about what God has us do, you have a daily podcast, which I've already told you I admire you
Yes.
for pulling that off.
Daily. Yes.
Yes. Tell us about your podcast.
So I'm going to give you a story before I tell you about my podcast. So I
Okay.
turned 52 years ago, and I was getting ready to be 50, and I looked at my life and I said, you know what? What are you going to do with yourself?
Mm.
And I looked around, and I've been financially blessed. Like, God has blessed me more than I ever deserved. I've had the Cadillacs, I've had the Corvettes, I've had the Rolex watches, I've had the extravagant vacations, I've had the vacation homes. And I'm not saying that to brag, but guess what? At the end, you know what I felt?
Nothing.
Empty.
Mhm.
And he spoke to me. He said, Ralph, here's what my goal is for you. Here's my mission field for you. He said, I want to take all the talents that I've given you and all the things that I've loaned to you, and I want you to put it to work. So my podcast is my mission field.
Mm.
It's called the Ask Ralph Show. And it comes down to trying to bridge two very different things. But if you think about them, they go hand in hand. And that's faith and finances, because you can't have one without the other.
Right.
And every morning I turn on the microphone. I turn on that camera because I do audio and video. And I write a blog post every day. And I take a question from a listener. You know, for example, like today I was working on a show that I'm going to record tomorrow. And this has nothing to do with Christmas, but it has to do with, if you don't pay your taxes, can they swipe your passport from you? Because I got a question from a listener, and the truth is, yeah, if you don't pay your taxes, the IRS can actually take away your passport.
I didn't know that.
So that's a practical thing, though. But what I was able to do is I was able to show, because the is, if I can get one person to listen, and I mean this, if one person listens and they're able to feel better about themselves, if I've given them some tools, I've given them some hope. So every doggone day, that's what I do. My goal is I put these podcast episodes together. I just started doing a live show. So if I didn't have enough to do, I launched a live show last night. So every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And think about this as for my mission field. I charge for what I do normally, right? Well, so if I have a live show, you come and ask your questions live. I don't charge for that. I'm going to give you all the guidance I've got to offer at 7 p.m. on every Tuesday night. That's Eastern Standard Time. You go to askralphpodcast.com/live, and it'll take you right there. We did our first one last night. I had several good questions. Like somebody asked me about, hey, Ralph, when should I take Social Security? Again, I said, well, it depends, right? But I tied that into faith too, because I said, you got to make the best financial decision, but then have faith that God is going to see you through. Because that's what it comes down to. And listen, you didn't ask me about this, but I've put together something special for the listeners of your show. And I've put together what I call my Surviving the Holidays Without Going Broke list. And I'm going to encourage everybody, if you go to askralphpodcast.com/Rising Muse, that's RISINGMUSE, I will give this to you absolutely free. It's my Surviving the Holidays Without Going Broke. And if it impact you, use a couple things. You don't have to do it all, but it will definitely make an impact. It'll change your perspective on everything. And then if you need somebody to help you, we're looking for somebody to walk alongside you, help you through those difficult financial situations, you can book a call with me. The cool thing about Zoom is, we talked about technology not being great, but Zoom is cool.
Oh, yes.
Because I have clients all over the world now, and I come alongside them. Listen, I don't have all the answers, but I can give you hope. I can give you that feeling like, hey, Ralph's got my back. That's why I call it Ask Ralph. What would Ralph do? Somebody said the other day, it's funny, they came in for a consultation and they're thinking about buying a new house. And I gave them a whole bunch of information. And the wife got home the next day. She sent me an email. She goes, they talk about what would Jesus do? She goes, I want to know what Ralph would do. I said, well, listen, first of all, I'm not worthy.
Right.
I'm not worthy to fit in those sandals, but here's what Ralph would do. I prayed about it and that God put on my heart. Here's what you should do. So if you're If you feel like you're struggling, if you're falling behind in your finances, it's embarrassing. It makes you feel like you're not worth anything. I can help you get past that. I can help you change that dynamic, because here's the deal. It's a real simple thing. You will never get to higher levels of understanding. You'll never be able to get to your God-given gifts if you can't provide that bottom line food, clothing, and shelter. It's just a simple truth. If you're fighting to figure out how you're going to feed your kids, and you're fighting to figure out how you're going to pay that mortgage or that car note, if you're doing that, you're never going to be able to get to what God has for you. Because think about it like this. I say this to people all the time. God wants you to be generous, but guess what? You can't be generous until you figured out your own finances. And this is a scary statistic. I heard this the other day, and this is a scary thing, but it was a thing that was written the other day. It said 49% of the population aged 55 to 65 have $0 in retirement savings.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Living paycheck to paycheck, credit card debt is at the highest level it's ever been. We're struggling.
Yeah.
So my whole goal of when I turn on that, like I said, I turn on that microphone, I turn on that camera, it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how can I reach that one person who's struggling? How can I reach that single mom that's trying to figure out how does she feed her kids? Because my mom was that. I mean, my mom and dad split up when I was 8. I was man of the house. That's a joke. How are you man of the house at 8 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So I went through those struggles with my mom. Now my dad was still in my life. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but like, I say this to my boys all the time. I say, think about this as an 8-year-old. I'm trying to figure out how to fix the lawnmower because my mom doesn't know how to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, it's cold in the house in the morning because we ran out of heating oil, and I'm 9 years old trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me come alongside and help you, because what I can teach you, you'll take and give to the future generations. You're going to teach your kids those things. We talked a lot about, giving your children that ability to understand their finances. Well, guess what? If you're going to do that, you better get your finances in order first.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's a long answer to a brief question, but
No.
that's really what it comes down to. It's my mission field. It's why I get up in the morning. It's what it all comes down to, a day where I'm going to stand before Christ, and he's going to say, what did you do with your rotten, sorry self, Ralph?
Yes. Yeah.
And then I hope he's going to say, when you help that one person, when you help the least of mine, you did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps me going.
And you hit the nail in the head when you talk about your boys. We were just talking about that at lunch, about sometimes as parents, we don't realize that raising a child is not just making sure that they make it to adulthood, is that make sure that they can be independent as adults, that they have the skills and the tools to be independent and self-sustainable, and spiritually sound. It's yeah, they need an education, but there's some stuff like financial planning, and like fixing things in the house. I had said one of the things I told you, mine is 3, but I said when he gets to his teen years, if he wants to be a plumber in the future, that's fine. But even if not, I want him to take some handyman classes, because I can't teach him that because I don't know. I have to hire somebody all the time. But as the man of his household, when he becomes an adult, I want him to have those skills, and I want him to have them before he leaves my house. So I've already thought that when he becomes a teenager, I'm going to look for those things, because there's a lot he can do. Not only he can fix his house, he have a side job that he can earn an income from that. As we're talking for finances. So, there parenting is a big job that sometimes people don't realize, that it's more than just buying the new iPhone, or there's so much that you can and you should prepare your child or children for, that have nothing to do with buying anything.
Right.
I'm gonna share a Bible verse with you that I thought was relevant here today.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. And it says this: each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.
Yes.
So we think about the holidays. Let's approach it with giving with joy,
Yes.
Mhm.
creativity, and love, because that's what it all comes down to in the holiday season, is that joy, that creativity, and that love that God showed for us. We need to reflect that to a world that is just dark
Yes.
and is sad. And there's people that they need that hope.
Mhm.
They do need the
Absolutely.
hope.
So if somebody wants to schedule personal financial planning with you, when they can,
You go to askralph.com. It's
Okay.
really that simple. If you've got a question you want me to answer on the show, you can go to justaskralph.com. If you want to go, I mean, basically, if you go to askralph.com, it's going to point you to all the things you need to say. And like I said, I've got that special giveaway for your listeners. You go to askralphpodcast.com/Rising Muse. I'm going to collect your email address and I'm going to send you a copy of this thing of how to get through the holidays without going broke, because none of us needs to be broke.
No.
I see too many sad stories come January, February, and March where people are still paying on that credit card note because they ran up the holidays. They didn't have that budget. They just went, I call it going bonkers. They just went bonkers. And did everybody have a great time at Christmas? Yeah, but then the reality sets in.
Yeah.
And now you're spending 3 or 4 months trying to pay for what you couldn't afford to buy in the first place.
Right.
Or worse, something happens and you can't even pay in March and the interest rates start coming in and you end up paying double of what.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This has been awesome.
It's been the last few years or so, I guess since my mom died, I refuse to go into debt.
Oh, yeah.
For Christmas.
Yeah, me too.
I refuse. My mom would start buying gifts in the summertime. She didn't like crowds for Christmas, so she would buy her Christmas stuff in August, for us. I'm glad that I don't focus on trying to impress somebody with a gift. I'd rather impress you with one-on-one talk,
presence,
encouragement,
presence instead of presents. I love that.
Being present.
Yeah, yes, presence instead of presents.
Instead of presents, being present for someone.
Right.
Like you said, maybe a young mother in the church struggling with her kids. Help them. They don't even have to know who it is.
Yeah.
Just help them. Give. And it will come back to you, pressed down, shaking together, running over. Will men give unto your bosom.
Don't ever forget the greatest gift of all time was the gift of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And if you're a believer, if you've got that salvation, ain't nobody going to give you a gift any better than that. Nope. I don't care how shiny it is. Nope. I don't care how sparkling it is. I don't care how much it costs, because you ain't getting nothing better than that.
Nope. And like I think it was Pastor last week said, you're not putting your card in your coffin. You're not taking that with you. You're not taking your clothes. You're not taking your phone. None of that goes with you.
This stuff can't go with us.
Right.
And this is not our permanent home anyway, but we take so much stock in where we are here, and we don't take stock in where we're going to spend eternity.
And that's what you started when we started the podcast, talking about the fact that a lot of people, and even in Christian world, they don't realize we're just stewards. None of this is ours. We're just managers of what we have.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I need mine, hoarding. No, this is not ours. And it can all be gone in a second, or you could be gone in a second, and then everybody else, whoever gets it. So yeah, that shift in mindset, I think will be a great first step towards financial freedom. The fact that people need to change the mindset that this is not ours. So we just need what we need. And the wants don't need to be that many, because what we want is to serve the Lord and do from there.
Yeah.
Because think about the anxiety that we all go about worrying about how much is in that bank account.
Yeah.
And, all those things that go along with it. It just creates anxiety. And what God tells us in his word, he says, I'm going to give you enough for today, Ralph.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you enough for today. Don't worry about tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm going to give you enough for today. So, and you got to have that heavenly mindset. You're right. This is not our permanent home. This is a tent. Right. Yes. We're not intended to pitch, to build up treasure down here, because guess what? Rust and vermin, where it says where vermin, and they'll destroy it, right? Well, rust and vermin will destroy.
Yes.
But they can't take away my faith. They can't take away that salvation, that blessed assurance that I have. You're not taking that from me.
Yeah. And this earth is our detour to heaven. This is
We're here for a mission.
We're here, yeah. But we put more, that's why I said we take more stock in what's here than where we're going to be when we leave this earth. Okay? You're a gazillionaire here, and you don't even know where your soul is going to rest after you leave this earth. I'd rather be more confident of where I'm going to spend eternity.
Of course.
Than how much money I have to impress anybody. Because like you said, it comes and it goes.
That's the truth. And I hope you let me share one more story.
Sure.
And I'm going to tell you one of the things that blessed my heart as a human being, as a son, was knowing where she was going. And the moment she stopped breathing, I heard the celebration horns going off because there was a party going down in heaven that day.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way we got to think about our lives. You know, these holidays we get all stressed out about and worrying about and all that kind of stuff. There is going to come a day when you're going to be on that deathbed. It ain't going to matter what's in your bank account. It ain't going to matter what you got under the Christmas tree. It ain't going to matter what kind of car you drive. It ain't going to matter any of those things. But I could just picture Christ himself standing at my mother's bed and saying, "Come home. Well done, good and faithful servant."
Yes.
And it gave my heart peace. I preached her. I did the eulogy at her funeral. And, you know, I didn't think I was going to get through it because like planning it and speaking it, I broke down every time.
Yeah.
But then there's that peace of the Holy Spirit that comes upon you. And maybe that's what I want to leave you folks with today. Pray about the Holy Spirit coming into your life at Christmas time. Let the Holy Spirit indwell in you and show you what truly matters. Because if you're quiet enough and you think about it and you pray about it, I think God's going to open up doors for you and you're going to see the holidays through a whole new lens that you've never even thought about. And it ain't going to matter what's for sale on Black Friday. It ain't going to matter any of those things. It's going to be at that experience, that connect, because it all comes down to relationships, right? The greatest relationship you will ever have is your relationship with God the Father, Jesus Christ, Lord, right? Well, just think about that. That's what it's all comes down to. So have those same relationship with your family. Have that same relationship with your friend. Have your same relationship with all those people that surround yourself, because that's the truth. The true spirit of Christmas is all about the relationship.
That's it.
Thank you so much for those words and for everything you've taught us today.
Yes.
On behalf of our audience, I want to thank you for our special gift.
Yes.
Remember, askralph.com /the Rising Muse?
Yes.
Rising Muse. Okay. And we'll have all those descriptions on the blog and on the description of the podcast. Thank you so much.
This is a blessing.
This is a blessing. And, you know, one of the things I love about this is not only we get to share the love of God with other people and practical tools, but we get to learn too. So it's great to know you and to hear everything you're doing. Continue to do what God's calling you to do, because he's blessing people through you.
And Ralph, you said that what you do is your ministry. What we do is our ministry. When God gave this to Naty, he gave us faith, family, and mental health. Those are the three things that we focus on. We don't try to go in other direction. It's like we stay in our lane. And you ever wonder if you're doing what God needs for you to do? He's definitely showing us. Because he is putting us in the presence of people like you. And a lot of other guests that we've had that have just really
blessed us,
blessed our soul. Not we had a good episode, but leaving the episode feeling different. And that's how I feel right now about the holidays. Yeah, I have 5 grandsons. Yeah.
It's gonna be a culture shock.
It's gonna be a culture shock. Yes, sir.
No. I'm really appreciative and honest to God, appreciative and blessed by this episode. I'm so grateful for you.
Yes, thank you, Ralph, so much.
Grateful to be given the opportunity. I'm grateful that Almighty God put me in front of you. So amen to that.
Thank you. And I told you that before, and I'll tell you again. We're going to have you back.
We're going to have
Fantastic. I'm available.
Because we need to talk a lot about finances to get ourselves straight in the kingdom of God.
Yeah, and we
I would love to do it.
You back
Absolutely.
like around tax season.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's a good one.
You know, getting your taxes together and everything together. We're gonna see you again real soon, Ralph.
We're gonna make it work. We're gonna figure it out.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. God bless you both.
Bless you. Thank you again, Ralph. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the word about how we can make this holiday season less about materialism and more about what truly matters: faith, love, and togetherness.
Don't forget to go to our description or to our website, therisingmuse.com, to find Ralph's gift for you. And don't forget to follow us on social media. It's also going to be on our social media. We are at the Rising Muse on all on all platforms. And know that, you're going to find the link for that. So get your first gift of the holidays. And wait for us for next week. We'll be back soon with another episode that will help you thrive with other aspects of your life.
And remember, if you're experiencing a mental health crisis, dial 988. And if a loved one is experiencing a mental health crisis, dial 911 or take them to the nearest emergency room.
If you think you're in a domestic violence relationship or need to talk to someone or need some assistance, dial 800-799-7233 or text 887-888. Make sure that you're in a safe place when you're making this outreach. Until next time, stay blessed and don't forget to thrive. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.